Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we'll be dissecting the new IDLES record, Joy as an Act of Resistance. IDLES are a UK post-punk outfit from Bristol, although the lead vocalist and bassist Joe Talbot isn't really convinced that they should be classified as a punk band. In a 2017 interview, Talbot exclaimed that, quote, "I guess we have that motoric engine-like drive in the rhythm section that some post-punk bands have, but we have plenty of songs that aren't like that at all," end quote. Talbot also went on to describe the sonic direction for this new record, stating that it's pulling on influences from grime, garage rock, and glam. So yes, don't just put a single label on a band or an album. It might just be an easy way for you to make yourself feel comfortable before hearing its entirety. And no, I'm not being authoritarian or trying to make you consume your music in a certain way, but when you probably all have varying levels of attraction towards punk music, most likely leaning towards the negative side because of amateurish sounds, you should just be aware of your preconceived opinions and how they affect your music tastes. And yes, I give that advice because even I was hesitant going into this record for its grimy aesthetic, but then I thought, hey, I grew up on Green Day, Blink-182, and all those skate punk bands from the 90s. I mean, I was a pretty big fan of that video game, Tony Hawk's Underground. But on this specific record here, I'm pleased with what I'm hearing from the sour and abrasive guitars, always seeming to feel like they're in a battle with the lead vocalist to see who can be louder, which is something very characteristic of hard rock, but we also get political critiques that are known from the folk genre on here too. And no, I'm not saying that if you like Bob Dylan, you'll like this music, but what I am trying to say is that the lyrics are extremely on the nose with the current political landscape. And this is something that's always been a strong convention for punk music too, just to ridicule or lampoon the previous generation for their faults, but also take further action than the hippies ever did. Or what about those folks north of the border? Since you know we all love sitting around smoking pot all day ever since it's been legalized up in Canada. But back on topic, the urgency with an album like Joy as an Act of Resistance hits all the right buttons while being self-aware of its melodramatic vocal deliveries and the in-your-face thumping drums. And on an album that hits hard with angst for your biological upbringing on the opening track Colossus, this project doesn't fail to find a feel-good melody either, especially on the track Danny Nedelko, easily one of my favorites on this record. But if you still find yourself scared of the gravelly or guttural vocal yells from Talbot on the first few tracks, keep in mind that a lot of his vocal ornaments and morose delivery are meant to be humorous appraisals of issues that are facing us today. In other words, some things just aren't meant to be taken seriously, and the over-the-top la 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 la's on Love Song and the mentioning of the absurd nature of buying cards to say I love you just point out the problems of materialistic and possessive relationships to begin with. Or if this isn't your cup of tea, just picture Donald Trump flipping out on the track Television. It's pretty funny. And if you're still not laughing and you would consider yourself a super serious person, dark topics are not avoided on this record either. It's not all fun and games, as stillborn babies are brought up on the contentious and distraught track June, which interestingly contrasts the grimy sound to a whistle in the interlude, which typically represents that everything is okay when in actuality it's not. Elsewhere, references to Charlie Sheen and the Nancy Sinatra song These Boots Are Made for Walking are made on the second track, Never Fight a Man with a Perm, which takes aim at muscleheads who just basically go to the gym every day and are viewed as walking thyroids, according to Talbot, which is unapologetically offensive, but it's still an insightful criticism while exaggerating the toxic masculinity or stoic nature of men that runs rampant in 2018, as well as traditionalism, refusing to change, etc., etc. If I could summarize all that I've been saying so far, it just feels like the more I listen to Joy as an Act of Resistance, it just plays out more like an episode of South Park if it were music, especially when they're making fun of the right wing. From their irreverent acceptance of being labeled scum to sarcastically pointing out the flaw of being a snowflake, this record takes aim at political issues that feel charismatic and genuine. And yes, I typically reserve myself to be centrist on most political issues, as a middle ground can usually be found for most problems, but even I'm on board with this music, and I still don't think that it will cause me to go out and riot or get involved with crime, as much as Fox News is convinced of that with hip-hop. Instead, it will just make me question my fears and how they can possibly lead to panic, which might lead to pain, and then anger, and then hate. Great lyrics from Danny Nedelko. However, with this politically charged theme threading its way through the album, at the end of the day, I choose to see it as less of propaganda and more just a satirical prodding of one side of the political spectrum. And yes, everyone is free to have their opinion. I'm not trying to jam my agenda down your throat. And to prove that, I feel like another record could be made as a part 2 to this, making fun of the opposite end of the spectrum, and I would still enjoy it. I mean, I do love the South Park poke fun at everyone kind of mentality after all. Altogether, the new IDLES project is versatile, featuring featuring strong production, on the nose, sometimes tongue-in-cheek lyrics that connect well to 2018, where everything can be taken as a joke, but not actually in the outrage culture of the internet right now. It's sadly just a contradiction that you just have to be okay with. And outside of that, the songs are snappy fun, some are outright hilarious, where I feel like a couple of tracks could even land on a comedic album, but the record can take itself seriously at times when it needs to be understood that way too. May I just remind you to take a second look at the title of the record? And the bottom line, the only problem I have with this album is the super loud dynamics, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just by the tail end of the runtime, you might need to rest your ears before switching to something else. With all that being said, I'm feeling a 9 out of 10. Sound off down below in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Agree or disagree, I'm here to engage with you guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. My name is Ryan from True North Reviews, and as always, have a rockin' day. Thanks for watching.